Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 513 Sports Attack.
I'm Nick, and with me, as always, my partner in crime, Cory.
What's going on?
Not much, man. What's going on with you?
Not a lot. Not a lot, man. A lot kind of going on this weekend that we'll kind of talk about later on. But the one thing that's kind of been on my mind recently has just been just like former players or current players transferring to other schools with allegations saying people are hazing, calling them names. I know it's been an issue for a while. It's been happening for the last couple of years, people transferring out of schools because things happen. Obviously the newest one has come out about a former Penn State player and saying that the coach did nothing about it when people were hazing him.
Some serious, heinous allegations, I will say, for that. And to our viewers out there, we're not gonna talk about what he came out and said. If you want to look that up, feel free to do at your own discretion.
Yeah, it's just been one of those things. Obviously there's no room for that in college sports at all. Obviously, and I'm not for that in any way. I think that's a really big issue. I have that, obviously, even when I was in college, in a fraternity, we didn't stand for that. So, it's college athletes should not have to deal with that.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, I heard about some fraternity, when we were in college, I heard about some fraternities going through what was called like a hell week where they couldn't shower. They had to, do some weird stuff, all locked in a room together. And I was like, well, my fraternity just said, hey, you better finish that beer. And when I asked why, they said, well, so you can have another one. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was quote-unquote hazing, if you will, when I joined a fraternity. And I agree with you. There's no reason for that in college football. I don't know what the truth is to this kid's allegations on Penn State, but looking at their past, man, I mean, if they're true, what do you think happens to their program? From the Jerry Sandusky incident to what these allegations are.
It's first off, it's not a good look at all. Obviously, that's an issue to begin with. I'm not sure. I think it's kind of too early in the process to really give that. Obviously, if they're true and come out that they are true, I think Penn State is going to have some issues. I think there's going to be.
What do you think the severity of it is, though? Let me put it this way: you're the NCAA. You got to make a decision on what punishment to hand down, assuming all these are true as of right now. What would be your penalty to them?
Considering they were really, really harsh before, if this is something that is true as well, I mean, it's going to be, you say the death penalty. I don't know that I would go as far as dismantle the football program. I'd say probably you got a 5-year bowl ban. You probably can't maybe even go to the severity of not being able to play for a conference championship. Maybe.
Well, I mean, that would be a postseason.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so all around, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years. Obviously, since they had, I think, 5 years previously.
I believe so.
So maybe double 10 years, no bowl. They'll pull scholarships.
Right.
We pull scholarships. Again, assuming all of these things are true. Obviously, we're not sure that these are true. But if they did, I think that's what they would need to do. They would have to be very tough.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially with the whole Jerry Sandusky incident, the cover-up, and I read a report that the university did their own little investigation as well into the matter and came out and said, oh, we didn't find anything. So, if they're covering up again, I can honestly say, my honest opinion, I see the NCAA actually going to the death penalty, dismantling the program, say, hey, you guys have a lot of issues you need to work out there in Penn State with your football program, and the only way to clear all this is if you guys don't have one for a very long time, maybe 4 years, maybe a 4-year death penalty, because you're James Franklin coming into it after all of that. You're the one who stepped in as a head coach during the last period, during the last penalty, and you're not going to make sure that type of thing doesn't happen again where, there's going to be no question that you're running a clean program. That just seems a little fishy to me. That you wouldn't have that severity of a penalty if you're the NCAA coming down on them. Just basically based off of what they've done in the past as well.
Again, I don't think don't get me wrong, it's something that's very, very serious. It's a very serious matter. I don't know that it's as severe as the Jerry Sandusky. Again, obviously, with it being them and their past, I see where you're coming from. However, it's just not necessary,
right.
I feel like.
It definitely is, and I don't want to get, don't get me wrong, the Sandusky incident to this is definitely two, one's that Sandusky incident was definitely more heinous than what, as these allegations are, but based off of their past, this looks just as bad, in my opinion, that if you're covering it up, all this stuff is going on, you're still allowing some sort of molestation, if you will, to go on within the program, and that still looks really, really bad. I just don't know what the future is out there in Happy Valley. As a Big Ten fan, I can't blame for people for leaving their program. We've heard there's been top recruits that have left Penn State, and a lot of them have said there's a lot of weird stuff going on there, and I don't want to be, I don't want to be a part of it. So, I mean, that's just what recruits have said, and these are recent recruits, too. These aren't past recruits that decided just to go to another school. These are like Julian Fleming, who's the number one player in the country almost, saying, his girlfriend goes to Penn State, and he said, no, there's weird stuff going on there. I'm going to Ohio State, where that stuff doesn't go on. I imagine the same thing at Michigan. You guys aren't hazing players, are you? You would like to think not, right?
Right. Obviously, nothing has come out saying that there has been. I believe there's not. Again, you see, I think it's just kind of college football these days. It's kind of, you see a lot of guys transferring, and people will like to point fingers at certain people and certain things. But you have to remember, these kids are 18 years old. 19 years old, never been away from home. Some of them just miss being home and want to play closer so their families can come see them. Not that they can't travel, but, expenses. And so, some of these kids I think are a little homesick, and I don't think, maybe some of these kids are transferring for other reasons, but nothing comes out. I don't think any of that stuff happens. Yeah. You would think, all football is a family. That's all anyone talks about is it's a family. So it's like you never think of that as where it would be coming from.
And speaking of that family mentality, I remember my former neighbor who passed away, he coached at Ohio State, actually, and he said, if when freshmen, the first time a recruit steps on campus as a commit, they graduate early, they step on campus to get in those early practices, the team says, hey, you're one of us now, you're family. And I imagine the same thing happens at Michigan, Notre Dame, and all these other big programs. And it's like kind of weird that you hear this coming from a Penn State recruit, where you don't think that type of things would be happening, if you're in my opinion. But speaking about transfers, I mean, they're just transferring for many different reasons nowadays, Justin Fields transferred because he got called a racial slur. I can't blame him for doing that. If that happened to me, I would definitely not want to be a part of that environment or that culture. And you're right. There's a lot of kids who are just transferring to be closer to home. So they're to be around their families. I think an Ohio State guy transferred down to Florida because his mom was sick. And how do you blame a kid for wanting to go take care of his mom? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I agree with you. I mean, there's a multitude of different reasons. This reason sticks out most because of how heinous the actual actions are.
It really does, and especially it's just got that asterisk because it's Penn State, and because it's Penn State, that's why the microscope has kind of been shined on them a little bit more than usual because of how their past is.
Definitely. Well, let's leave that alone because that's kind of a very depressing thing to hear and talk about. Let's move on to another scandal in college football, actually. Something that happened after Monday night's championship game between LSU and Clemson. OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., just out there handing wads of cash out to to LSU players, like right on the field in front of everybody, the media, the world. Just, hey, I'm out here just $1,000, no big deal. Here you go, kid.
It's an issue. I think, obviously, do players deserve to be paid? They're putting their bodies on the line. I understand all of that, but you know what? Beckham, obviously this is coming from the guy who wore a $400,000 watch playing the game of football in the NFL. So, I mean, of course he's got no problem with it, no issues. Obviously, it's an NCAA issue in my opinion, but obviously I think the bigger thing is he's happy. He's an alumni of LSU. Congratulations to them. He wanted to be there to support them, was there, in New Orleans, makes it that much more special. And, they're champs. So he was celebrating like he was a champ, because I'm not sure they're going to not going to win one in Cleveland maybe. We never know, but
The sounds of it, he wants out of Cleveland, so wherever he goes, he may not win a championship. But here's my opinion: it looks really bad on the NCAA allowing that to happen. Here's the way you solve stuff like that from happening: the only people who are allowed field passes to sit, to be on the sidelines outside of the coaching staff, program employees, is the media. You only allow the media to be on the field. They're the only ones allowed to rush in there after the game to get their pictures, their interviews, and everything. No fans, no alumni, nothing. Keep them all in the stands, and let them and they're not even allowed on the field after the game. Now, if they want to go into the locker room and security or whatever the program allows them to be in the locker room, that's a different story. But they should not be on the field after the game. That's just my opinion. You should, because that's how you stop a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. going out there and giving people $1,000.
yeah, I mean, obviously, you talk about Odell Beckham. That's not the only thing that he's in trouble for, obviously, in Louisiana anymore. Obviously, apparently, he was in the locker room and he smacked a couple of security guards on the butt.
Wow.
So obviously, I think he was partying a little too hard that night. Obviously, we know he likes to party, so.
And now there's a warrant out for his arrest. You know what I have to say to that? Those security guards were Clemson fans, clearly. It's not like he walked up to him and socked him in the face. It was a nice little smack on the ass. We're men. You get excited. You're in that type of environment. If you've ever been part of an organization or a team, that happens in the locker room. He just got a little excited, saw some, but whoop, there you go. There's no reason to have a arrest warrant out for him for that.
Now, obviously, that's what we see and that's what we read. Obviously,
Right.
Who knows what actually happened? Obviously, other than the security guard and Odell Beckham. So, I really, again, I have a problem with it. I think the NCAA needs to be strict on it. Again, we talked about this a little bit earlier. In the day, I told you I think there's a reason why all eligible junior LSU players went pro. I think there's a reason for that. I think, granted, they are all very talented and will probably be drafted in the first round, so I don't blame any of them. But I think there might be an ulterior motive as well.
Yeah, what you said earlier, as we were talking earlier, was maybe Coach O looked at him and said, "Hey guys, after you accepted that money, you got to go. You're going pro. You can't play for LSU anymore." And that's actually a real possibility of why they are all decided to go pro, because a lot of them could have came back and improved their skill, improved their draft stock, but no, they're all going pro. That was actually something I never even thought of actually happening, Corey. The coach is saying, "Hey, you're going pro."
And on the flip side, you really cannot blame Coach O for doing that. I think, obviously, he's preventing something that really could be a bigger issue.
And he's protecting, and this is my view from the coach's aspect, you're protecting the future players of the program from being penalized for something they had no part of. It was these guys doing it. These kids have had nothing to do with it. Why should they be penalized for it? So, I definitely agree with that aspect. Hats off to him if that's what really happened, because that shows a lot of integrity as a man to sit there and realize, hey, it's about the program, not you guys. I really like that move by Coach O. Well, Core, so that's what happened after the game. We dug into the scandal that happened after the game. Your initial thoughts here as we're recording Thursday night after the championship. What are your initial thoughts, as we have had time to really take in fully what that game was all about?
I thought it was going to be a little bit different. I thought in my head I kind of saw Clemson being a little bit stronger. I think, obviously, overall, I can't really be upset. LSU was the best team all year. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can say who you want. You can say Ohio State, did this, and Ohio State did that, and Clemson did this, and Alabama did this, and all these other teams did this. But at the end of the day, they didn't have all the talent that LSU had. They didn't have the speed that LSU had. They may have had players that could have stopped them, but what happened was LSU had the offensive mind running with the player that ran the perfect system. And when you have those two together, you have a guy who you can call a play and you can say, oh, it's a 50-yard bomb. But then if it's not there, rather than tucking and running, he's got his eyes downfield, still looking 15 yards downfield to make a 20-yard play out of something that really should have been nothing or a sack. So I think I think it just kind of shows. You have LSU was just the better team all year. All year they were the best team. I really didn't think LSU's defense was as good. Obviously, you give a lot of credit to Dave Aranda, who is obviously now the new Baylor head coach. Signed away from LSU, was the defensive coordinator. You give a lot of credit to him. Had that team ready to play. Obviously, they did have a lot of talent. They're still, in my opinion, DBU. Obviously, they groom them there. Overall, good game. Two best players really going at each other. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence did look a little bit younger. You could kind of tell that Joe Burrows was ready for the moment. He knew about the moment. He was ready for the moment. He's going to be the number one pick and have a new home in Cincinnati in a couple short months. I think he was just ready. He knew what he was going to do. He set out to do what he was going to do, and he wasn't too big. The moment wasn't too big, and he was ready to go. They were the better team than Clemson, and it was a great game. Early on, that game was back and forth. I was like, it could be 50-50 at this point, obviously, but they kind of settled down. LSU made some adjustments and just took care of business.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. However, though, my takeaway from that entire game, and people are probably going to get really upset with this statement, but I think you actually saw how good Trevor Lawrence actually is. I know you, after I said that to you, you're like, yeah, but he beat Alabama as a true freshman. Correct. Look at all the talent that team had at Clemson. Their defensive line, all four of them were drafted in the first round. They had unbelievable talent around him on offense where all he had to do was not make a mistake. And when the game pressure got onto it where Trevor Lawrence needed to make those certain plays, his arm strength wasn't there. You didn't see the crisp throws out of him. You didn't see the decision making really that he showed in the past. Out of Trevor Lawrence, you just didn't see that. So, and that's my big takeaway is I just don't think I think we actually saw how good Trevor Lawrence is because Joe Burrows outplayed him. And you speak about ready for the moment. How is Trevor Lawrence not ready for that moment? He played in the game last year and won it. When you speak about that, in my mind, I'm like, well, Trevor Lawrence was there. Joe Burrows just outplayed him. 100% outplayed Trevor Lawrence that entire game.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence, to be fair, take nothing away, but Joe Burrow's outplayed everybody all year. It's not just Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence did not have his best game, obviously, as I said. I think Trevor Lawrence is still an unreal prospect, an unbelievable quarterback. Didn't play his best game. I think the offensive line, We've talked about this a lot. I think the offensive line hurt them a lot in that game. You give credit to, again, Dave Aranda and LSU's defensive coordinator. But, I had a couple things that I did not like about the game. Obviously, I didn't like Clemson's defensive coordinator, Will Venable, being so aggressive on certain plays.
So that tell everybody that play that I know what play you're thinking about.
Yep.
Give them
so
the
it was 3rd and 18. They were down 3 points in the third quarter. 3rd and 18. I believe I pointed it out to you as it happened. I said it's 3rd and 18. Burrows is in the shotgun by himself, and you've got 4 wide receivers, and you have 4 corners out there with no safety over the top. I said you're asking to just give up something.
That was before the half, by the way.
Before the half, before the half. Excuse me, right before the half. You're right. Right before the half, that happens. How do you do that? How do you give that up? It happened later on in the game too.
But that was a PI that gave them the first down, and they scored. On that possession.
And then you have 3rd and 18, and then you have the safety back over the top, and you have all their players. You have to assume everybody in football, if you've ever watched football, 3rd and 18, they're already in field goal range. They're running the football. It's shotgun. Yes, he could throw. You have a safety over the top for a reason. It's a quarterback sneak. Don't blitz. Sit in zone, and you have a 2-yard gain and hold them to 3, or an attempt a long 3. Opposed to giving him a first down, LSU scores a touchdown, and
that
all
was
of a sudden,
that Burrows run that you're talking about.
Yep, you got it.
Yep, that long one.
Yep,
and that was actually a momentum changer, and both of those plays momentum changers.
Again, take nothing away from Joe Burrow's unreal season, 60 touchdowns. It's unreal. It's unreal. Nothing that's never been done. I talked about that to you, earlier in the week. It's one of those things where you look back and you say, I witness history. Joe Burrows has done nothing, as much as you want to talk about it. He's done more in the college football playoff. You could say the semifinal, you could say the championship. He's thrown more touchdowns, more yards, everything. He could be, he's a top in this day and age. When they look back 20 years from now at the top 50 NCAA players, you would not, maybe not have him in the top 50, but you would have him close just off of his one phenomenal season. I personally think he would be in the top 50.
And you know what I liked that Joe Burrows did all season long, and he did it. He didn't do it as much in the championship game as he did all season, but he did it when he needed to. He was never afraid to check it down to his running back. If his first 2 or 3 reads weren't there, he was not afraid to dish it down, get a first down, and he's actually he's so talented, but he understands, hey, I got to get the ball in the hands of my playmakers and let them go make plays, because that's how we're going to win this game. He's just very smart with the ball. He has a cannon for an arm. And not only that, he's accurate downfield. He's really accurate downfield.
And always has his eyes downfield.
It always does. Even when he's scrambling outside the pocket, when he's rolling out, he's looking downfield. The way he can hold a safety, too, with his eyes is incredible. For a guy who's only started 2 years in college, you wouldn't think that all those intangibles that you get over starting and, a long career. Some guys, even in the NFL career, we see quarterbacks, they can't hold a safety. This kid's doing it, like it's nothing. Like it's his, 9-to-5 job just to sit there and stare down a safety. It's really incredible to me that he can, move a defense like that as he's, if you will, a Tom Brady, a Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, one of the greats. I agree with you. I think when we look back on just this season alone, personally, I think you have to put him in the top 50. He owns, as you said, all these different records, 60 touchdowns in a season. The last person to get close to that was Colt Brennan, and he played at Hawaii, where all they did was throw the ball. That's pretty special, if you ask me. So hats off to Joe Burrows. That's all I got for the national title game. We all watched it. We all know what was going on. So let's dive into another scandal, Core. and go. Let's move on to a baseball scandal that just came out in the past week and a half. The Houston Astros, during their 2017 World Series run, have apparently been busted for taping and recording signals and using live signals from a camera out in center field, relaying that to a guy in their dugout to send a signal to their coach or to the manager, who would send a signal to the batter or players, to let them know what the other team is doing. So, your initial thoughts on this, Core? Your initial thoughts?
It's just kind of a shame. Obviously, it's just kind of a shame. Obviously, Houston, you talk about it, they deserve that World Series championship. It's a shame. And what's more of a shame is everyone that's part of it who are coaching afterwards are now tainted and won't have a job. It's just a shame. At the end of the day, we always talk about this. At the end of the day, yes, you want to win, and that is very important. But at the end of the day, it's a game. At the end of the day, it's a game. You love it. You do everything for it. That's your goal. You want to win. That's your championship. You want to hold on to it. But if you get caught cheating with something like this, it's like you never won it anyway. It's tainted. I don't like it. I feel bad because people are losing their jobs who really didn't maybe necessarily have a huge part in it. But, obviously, if you knew about it, you're part of it. So, I do understand it. Obviously, recently they just came out, the MLB did, and said that the Astros did not have wearable devices that aided sign stealing. So that's kind of a positive on the Houston Astro point for now. But obviously, it's completely ruins the integrity of the championship. It taints the whole season, the whole game.
It taints the MLB, the history of the MLB. I don't like it. I agree with everything that you said, especially the likes of Carlos Beltran losing his job earlier today with the Mets. Alex Cora lost his manager job with the Red Sox. There is allegedly going on, though, that he may have used sign stealing during their 2018 World Series run. I don't know. I haven't heard much else about that, so I don't know how much truth there actually is to it. But what's really disappointing to me out of all this, on top of the cheating, is the MLB did not go out there and do the right thing. Vacate their World Series. Make them give that trophy back to the league. All the players return their rings. That World Series is marked off the books. There was, basically act like that season never happened type deal. Because that's what they do in college football. You have to vacate those wins if you get caught doing something you're not supposed to, right?
Yeah, again, I agree with you 100%. It's going to be really bad for Houston if obviously this is found, which obviously it already has come out. So it's going to be really, really bad, and I feel bad for a lot of the players that play for the Astros.
Especially the ones who maybe never even, or who maybe knew it was going on, but wasn't really involved in it. Those guys, now their entire legacy's tainted. Another thing that I don't like, Core, is being in Cincinnati as we are. Here you have these guys legitimately cheating to win a World Series championship, and nobody's been banned from the league or anything like that. They're all, some people have been suspended for a year for operations or whatever, but nobody's been banned for life for the league, right? Banned for life. A lot of viewers probably know where we're going with this. You have Pete Rose. All he did was bet on a game. Again, it's a game. He bet on a game when he was a manager, not even as a player. But he did it as a manager, and he's banned for life and can't even get into the Hall of Fame based off his player stats. He wasn't betting when he was getting 5,000 hits. That's what's upsetting to me. When you look at this, and then you compare it to what Pete Rose did, Corey, I don't even see those two comparable. I think what the Astros are doing is way worse than whatever Pete Rose did.
Obviously being from Cincinnati and growing up in Cincinnati, it kind of hits home. Obviously, I've always thought Pete Rose deserved to be there. In this day and age, you separate a playing career from a managerial career. You don't hold what things happened in a player's career, what happened in their coaching career. You could be a phenomenal player and a terrible coach. And Pete Rose was not a great manager, but he was the best hitter of all time, you could say. The hit king, has the most hits ever. Obviously,
to this day.
Right. In what he did and the amount of hits. You look at someone like Ichiro, who averaged 200 hits a year, which is a lot. More than that, almost sometimes had 300 hits. Finished his career, had more hits, in Japan, everything like that, over 3,000. Obviously, it's a lot. It's a lot of hits. Ichiro is one of the guys. Obviously, it won't be, registered. He's one of the better hitters. But, with Pete Rose, it's one of those things. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame as a player. Take what you want away from him as a coach. But as a player, he is deserving. He was deserving of first ballot. So, in my opinion, but there are, as my dad used to say, there's a lot of people who vote for the Hall of Fame, right? And on those Hall of Famers, there's people on there, they may think you're the greatest person ever and the greatest player ever, but you don't deserve to be in it as a first-time Hall of Famer. There's people who believe that. And so because you have people who believe that, I believe that there are a lot of people that would, even if he was eligible to be on there, I feel there is a lot of people that would not vote for him. And I think even if they allowed him to be on the ballot, I think it would take a couple years before he would even be considered, just because of those people and how they feel.
I don't disagree. Because we are human. We do take, other things in consideration when we are making those types of selections. So I can see them taking in the betting thing into consideration when he was a manager, voting for him to be in the Hall of Fame. I 100% understand that, but personally, if I was voting on that, I would have him in my first ballot. And I just pulled up here. I have pulled up here the all-time hit leaders in the MLB. The closest active player to Pete Rose right now is sitting at number 14, and it's Albert Pujols with 3,202 hits. That's the closest active player to Pete Rose.
And how many is he away from Pete Rose?
1,554.
So if you average what he's probably averaging, I would say he was probably about around 200 hits a year.
Right.
All right. So he's still
he's still
1,500 away.
Right.
He's still 1,500 away. So he's still.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry. It's 1,054. Sorry.
1,000. Okay, so
1,
even still, he's still a solid 5 seasons. That's assuming he stays healthy. That's assuming he plays
168 games a year.
Right. It's that's depending on all of those factors.
Right.
And most players don't even play a full season anymore.
100%. Here's another notable name and as you say, first ballot Hall of Famers, people don't, there's people who don't believe that core. Here's a player who I don't believe how anybody could say this individual is not a first ballot, and that's Derek Jeter, the captain. He is number 6. And how great was he for his 20-year career almost? And he's at 3,465 hits. I mean, he's still 800-something away from Pete Rose. Think about that. That's 4 more seasons if you average 200 hits a year. And you're going to keep this guy out of the Hall of Fame because of a manager, what he did as a manager? You got to separate it. If you don't want to put him in as a manager, fine, because he bet on baseball. The man deserves to be in there for a player, doesn't he?
At 100% he does deserve to be there.
I definitely agree. All right, Core. It's time for Weekend Watch with Cory.
All right, so obviously we've got a fun weekend in sports going on here. Obviously you want to just kick things off with the NFL. Obviously we have the 2 games that will decide who we see in February in the Super Bowl. So obviously, on Sunday you have the 49ers hosting the Packers. Should be a great matchup in the NFC.
Keys to victory, Cory. Just real quick, as we're talking about these games, let's just go keys to victory for the 49ers.
So for the 49ers to win, they have to run the football. They have to take pressure off Garoppolo, make sure he has time in the pocket, and then they have to just be themselves on defense. Limit Aaron Rodgers' scramble ability because that's when he hurts you the most.
Yeah, my keys, be who you were all year. Run the football. Get Kittle involved in your passing game early. That's really going to help it open up your offense, especially to hit Emmanuel Sanders and Deebo Samuel. On their crossing routes or on their deep routes, that's gonna help open up those routes if they have to account for George Kittle. So I think that's a key to victory. And you said run the ball. Use your committee like you've done all year. Don't be afraid to put that fullback in there. What's his name? Jaresic or however you pronounce his name.
Juszczyk. Kyle Juszczyk.
Juszczyk. Jaresic. I don't know where I was coming out with that. I'm sorry. But use that fullback. It's an underrated position in football. Love the fullback position. Use him as a blocker like you've done all year. That's your keys to victory. Your defense is going to be fine, San Francisco. Let them go be who they are. But your keys to winning this game is making sure Kittle gets involved to open up your passing game and making sure you use those running backs of committees that you have.
Yeah, and on the flip side here for Green Bay, protect Aaron Rodgers. Protect Aaron Rodgers. That's the key. He's your prized possession. He's the one who's going to score points for you. Yes, you have Aaron Jones, who's a stud in the backfield, but you got to protect Aaron Rodgers for you to be successful.
The most important Aaron on that team, a key to victory, exactly. Protect the most important Aaron on that team, and that's Rodgers. The offensive line has to give him time to throw. That San Francisco defense has elite pass rushers on all 4 spots on that D line. So you gotta be able to give Rodgers time to throw, especially let him stay in the pocket where he's best, because we know that he can make unbelievable throws outside of the pocket. But when he's inside the pocket and he can pick apart a defense, that's when Rodgers flourishes. So that's my keys to victory for Green Bay.
So if you had to pick who's going to win?
Man, that's a tough decision. Very tough decision because you got the last time they played was in San Francisco, right? And they had the Packers lost 38-7. I don't see Rodgers losing to the same team twice, especially with the chance to go to the Super Bowl. I got to go with Green Bay. And we say this all the time, and you said this going into the college football championship, Cory. Experience matters.
I agree with you. I think Green Bay is the better team. I think Green Bay, obviously they can get in trouble if they do not protect Aaron Rodgers, but I think they will, and I think Green Bay is going to win. So something else to watch in football, obviously we have the AFC Championship where you have the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Tennessee Titans. Kind of weird to see the Titans there, but you gotta believe in them. They took down the Patriots and the Baltimore Ravens in back-to-back weeks, so you have to kind of believe in them. So if the Titans are going to win, Nick, what are your keys for them to win?
There's only one key: be who you have been all year long. Run the football, take pressure off of Tannehill, let him make some easy, nice passes, and play great defense. That's what your keys are. And almost kind of do what you did last week against Lamar Jackson. Limit Patrick Mahomes' possessions. Don't let him get into a rhythm. Those are my keys. And Tennessee's been doing it all year, so I have faith that they will go out there and execute who they are. Just stick to who you are.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think Tennessee just has to be who they are, continue to run the football. On the other side of the ball, for Kansas City, we said protect Aaron Rodgers, protect Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, run the football effectively, but let Patrick Mahomes be Patrick Mahomes and make sure you protect him. And my key, though, for Kansas City to win this game is their defense.
That's what I was going to say.
You have to limit Tennessee's big plays. You can't let Derrick Henry rumble down the field. You can't let A.J. Brown get wide open and continue to run after the catch. You got to keep it together defensively. I think they're going to do it. In my opinion, I think Kansas City's going to win this game and go into the Super Bowl. I think Tyrann Mathieu is going to be ready to play, and I think he will have that team ready to go and focused.
Yeah. I agree with you. Defense is the key for Kansas City. Your defense has to show up. They have to be able to stop Derrick Henry. Like you said, you can't let him run downfield on you. You got it. Kansas City, your defense has to show up on Sunday. If you don't, it's going to be a long game because when Derrick Henry can move the ball, he makes it difficult, and you're not going to want to hit him late in the third quarter or early in the fourth quarter when you're maybe still in the game. You're going to think about all that punishment you took the first half if you let him run all over you in the first half. And then another key is playing disciplined defense. As you said, you got to stay home. I would assume they're going to probably play more zone to limit Derrick Henry getting to the secondary than playing more man. So those are my key. That I agree with you. That's my key as well. If you're picking here, I think you said Kansas City, right?
I did. Kansas City will win.
I'm gonna take the opposite here. I'm gonna go with Tennessee. I think that their coaching staff is great. They got these guys playing team football. There's a lot of moving parts in football. You have to have everything clicking at the right time, and it seems like the Titans are clicking. So I got to go with them. So my matchup is we're going to see the Titans versus the Packers in the Super Bowl. Cory is predicting a Super Bowl I rematch between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Green Bay Packers. All right, Cor. Anything else here on your on your weekend watch?
Oh yeah, there's quite a lot of things still on the dock this weekend in sports. Obviously, tomorrow in the NBA, just for a minute, we'll kind of speak. We got a couple games. I've got my eye on tomorrow night. You've got the Bulls, obviously not too great this year, versus the 76ers. Obviously, I think the 76ers are a fun team to watch. So I like that matchup. And then you've got the nightcap tomorrow night is Portland versus Dallas. Another team that I've got my eye on, as Dallas is again a fun team to watch. That's kind of what I've got my eye on in for the basketball docket this weekend. Obviously, there's basketball on Saturday and Sunday. No other games really kind of get my attention. We've got the Bucks playing as well. They're always fun to watch. But moving on, we've got
NCAA basketball games. Anything looking forward to there?
There's not too, not really. I am a big college basketball guy. Obviously, I love my Bearcats. But, there's not, in my opinion, I don't feel that there's, really games that I'm really, stoked for.
Okay.
Not really too stoked for this weekend. I've got, not too many.
I know there's something big happening on Saturday night. A little return, if you will.
Yes, obviously, yes. That's my next point. Obviously, if you like the Ultimate Fighting Championship, you have the return of Conor McGregor versus the Cowboy Cerrone. So, obviously, this is something to watch for. Obviously, the card itself, as I look at it, have looked at it before, is really solid. It's got a lot of knockout potential, which is kind of what you look for in these kind of things.
I know we'll be watching it, so listen next week for our recap of that McGregor fight, because it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, with that being said, I think that's probably the highlight of the weekend. something else that, just want to let the listeners out there know about that kind of just came out. If you have Netflix and are interested, they also came out with the Aaron Hernandez documentary on Netflix that kind of shows how his early years kind of impacted maybe some of his decisions later on. Haven't caught that yet, but that's definitely something I've got my eye on this weekend as well. Obviously, you've got hockey in full swing as well. I'm not really a hockey fan, but you've got some big games. Soccer still going on. But really the main thing to watch for this weekend is that Conor McGregor fight. Obviously, he talks a big game. You never know. You've had multiple people come out and say that we'll see stuff in the we'll see some other big fights, but obviously I think that it starts right here this weekend. Conor McGregor is back, and that's what I've got.
All right. Well, thanks for that little segment there, Core, of Corey's weekend watch. Great. I love it. I can't wait to watch the McGregor fight. Can't wait to watch some, the championship weekend here we have for the AFC and NFC. Just going to be a great little nice weekend for sports here in late January, or mid to late January, if you will. All right, Core, we're at that time here. We got to give our shout-outs. I know who I'm giving mine out to this week. Going to be a little bit of a homer pick. I gave him a shout-out earlier in the year, but I got to give a shout-out back to Ryan Day. He set his entire team together, the coaching staff, the entire program, and made everybody watch the national championship game start to finish, beginning to end. As much as that had to hurt to do it, I like that move strictly because, like he said, he wants everybody to know how they felt right at that moment and ask themselves, are you willing to do what it takes to get to that game next year? And I think unbiasedly, we can all agree that that's a heck of a coaching move. To sit your team, to sit a team down here who maybe some view as who should have been playing in that game and say, hey, are you guys willing to take what it takes to get back there? Do you guys want this feeling again next year? That's a heck of a coaching move. I don't know if you agree with that, Corey, but I just think unbiasedly that is a great coaching move, and I would say that about any coach who did that as well.
All right, my shout out. I've gone back and forth, a lot the last couple weeks. I haven't really had one that I've had in mind, but something that really kind of struck me today that I thought was a good move, so I'm just going to go with it. My shout-out is going to go to sports agent Drew Rosenhaus. Not maybe your average guy. Obviously, he's got big clients all around. But, he parted ways with Antonio Brown. And he cited not because of his past, not of anything he did, but what did he do? He refused to get help. He's saying, I'm not going to represent you if you're refusing to get help. And so, obviously as tough as an issue that probably is to even hear and even talk about, good for him for sticking to his guns. He's a good guy. You kind of see that and the smart move. Not saying he won't represent him, but he's not doing it while you're refusing to get help.
Agreed. Something I would like to add here. So those were our individual shout-outs. The 513 Sports Attack as a whole, Corey and I both, outside of our individuals, we talked about this, Corey, previously. Shout-out to Matt Rule from our podcast, from both of us. That press conference he gave, Corey, I know I loved it. I don't know about you. It hit home, I'm sitting here beating my heart because that's where it hit, and you felt his passion, that he has, just not for coaching or whatever, but for the game itself. Your thoughts on Matt Rule?
I think, Carolina's gotten a great coach. I think there's not a classier guy. Obviously, his speech was unreal. I mean, you really kind of talk about it. You talk about, who's deserving of something like that. again, he didn't say that he was deserving. He said he's been a football coach. He's wanted to do it. He's been around football his entire life. He loves the game. And you like good things to happen to guys like that who protect themselves and surround themselves all around football. And I think it couldn't have happened to a greater guy, and I really like the hire.
I agree as well. Well, that's all for me. I just would like to let everybody know I do a Ohio State basketball podcast on the OHIO podcast. So check that out if you're into Buckeye football. Me and Buckeye Boggs dive deep into a lot of different Buckeye topics on that show. So just tune into that if that's your thing for Buckeye for all your Buckeye needs.
And also don't forget to catch us every Friday on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, and Spotify, or wherever else you listen or get your podcast. All you have to do is search 513 Sports Attack. Please check out our Facebook page and Instagram page at the 513 Sports Attack. Give us a like. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to talk about or tackle, we'd love to do it. Please email us at the 513sportsattack@gmail.com.
Can't wait to hear from you guys. Amen, my brother Cory, and one love, everybody. We're out.